one of the truths that can really change your life, if you are willing to really let it in, is this: you cannot change what you refuse to own. And that really matters because a lot of people say they want to change, they want more peace, they want better habits, they want better performance, they want to stop repeating the same problems, they want more confidence, they want healing, they want freedom, they want to feel better, they want a different life. But at the same time, they're still protecting the very thing that needs to be faced. They're still excusing it, still explaining it away, still blaming the pressure, still blaming other people, still blaming the season of life, still blaming stress, still blaming the circumstances, still saying, well, this is just how I am, or still saying anybody would do the same thing, or still saying I'll deal with it later, or still saying that's not really the issue. And I say that with compassion because I think almost everybody does this in some part of life. But I also think this is one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck. Not because they are bad and not because they are lazy and not because they do not want better, but because they are still protecting the pattern that is costing them. And that is the deeper, like, light bulb moment. People think they are struggling with the pattern, but many times they are also in partnership with the pattern. They defend it, they justify it, they identify with it, they explain it away, they give it a pass. They treat it like it belongs there. And as long as they are doing that, then change stays far away because ownership is what creates power, not shame, not self attack, not condemnation, ownership, right? And what I want to be really clear about is that because this particular week in this video here is not about beating yourself up. It's not about becoming harsh. It's not about turning self-awareness into self-hatred. This is not about getting more judgmental with yourself. This is about becoming honest. And these or those are actually not the same thing. Honesty says things like, yes, this is happening. Yes, this is mine. Yes, I keep doing this. Yes, I keep feeding this. Yes, I keep repeating this. Yes, I keep letting this pattern run. And yes, I keep choosing this in some form. And yes, I keep reinforcing what I say I want to change. And that is not condemnation. That is truth. And truth is where freedom begins because once something is truly owned, it can actually be changed. But until then, people are often just orbiting the problem, talking about it, explaining it, analyzing it, blaming around it, spiritualizing around it, getting frustrated with it, being disappointed in themselves about it, but not fully owning it. And until a person owns what is theirs, they do not really have their hands on it. And I think this shows up everywhere. It shows up in stress. And people say they want peace, but they are still excusing the exact patterns that destroy it. They keep overthinking and call it being responsible. They keep saying yes to too much and call it being caring. They keep living in urgency and call it normal. They keep reacting quickly and call it stress. They keep carrying resentment and call it being, you know, careful. Or they keep doom rehearsing and call it preparing. And then they wonder why peace stays so far away. But peace does not grow where chaos keeps getting excused. And that is important. And it shows up in health and weight loss also. People say they want change, but they are still protecting the very habit that hurts them. They still negotiate with it. They rationalize it. They, give it permission. Still tell themselves it was a hard day. They still tell themselves they'll start tomorrow. Still tell themselves this was one time that does not count. They still say they deserve it. They still say now is not the time. And again, I'm not saying that to shame anyone. I'm saying it because the body does not change while the habit is still being protected. And that is the truth, right? It shows up in relationships too. A person says they want healthier relationships, but they are still excusing the attitude, the defensiveness, the shutdown, the resentment, the avoidance, the overreaction, the inability to communicate clearly, the refusal to soften, the way they keep making everything about the other person instead of telling the truth about what is also happening, within them. And that matters. But it shows up in performance also. Athletes do this, shooters do this, golfers do this, high achievers do this. They say they want more freedom, more confidence, more consistency, and better results, but they are still, defending the inner pattern that keeps taking them out. They blame the pressure, they blame the target, they blame the conditions, they blame the miss, they blame timing, they blame the round, they blame their nerves, they blame the environment. But many times the deeper issue is still theirs. The carrying, the overreaction, the identity hit after a mistake, the self attack, the fear meaning, the second guessing, the refusal to reset. And that is why the same struggle keeps repeating, because the pattern is still being excused instead of owned. This is also what shows up in success and leadership in a huge way. So a lot of high achievers say they want more peace and more clarity and more high level functioning, more freedom from pressure, but they are still glorifying the exact thing that is breaking them. They glorify overwork, they glorify self criticism, they glorify inner pressure, they glorify control, they glorify tension, they glorify never letting up, they glorify the belief that harshness is what got them here. And as long as a person still admires what is hurting them, they usually do not change it. And that is a very important truth, because a lot of people are not just defending the pattern, they are still convinced the pattern is helping them. That is why ownership is so powerful. So, ownership says, maybe this is not helping me the way I thought. Maybe what I have been calling normal is actually costly. Maybe what I have been blaming on life is something I keep feeding. Maybe what I have been calling personality is actually repetition. Maybe what I have been explaining away is exactly what needs my honesty. That is a different level of self awareness. And I think one of the biggest reasons people resist this is because ego hates ownership. Ego wants protection. Ego wants to be right. Ego wants to blame. Ego wants to justify. Ego wants to stay comfortable. Ego wants to keep the story intact. Ego says, it's not that bad. This isn't the real problem. I only do this because of them. I only react like this because life is hard. I only stay like this because of what happened. I only keep doing this because of stress. I'm different. My situation is different. This doesn't apply to me. And I think that is exactly why truth takes courage, because truth often asks a person to give up the story that has been protecting them. And that can feel uncomfortable before it feels freeing. But it is freeing, because the moment you stop pointing away from yourself, you start getting your power back. And that is what I really want people to understand this week. Ownership is not punishment, ownership is power. When you own something, you can work with it. When you own something, you can interrupt it. When you own something, you can retrain it. When you own something, you stop waiting for everything outside of you to change first. And that changes everything, because excuses may feel comforting in the moment, but they leave people powerless. Ownership can feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it leaves people free. And that is a very different path. So, if we are going to make this practical, I think there are a few steps that really matter. So, the first is this: identify one pattern you keep explaining away, not 10, not your whole life, just one. Like one reaction, one habit, one mindset pattern, one excuse, one behavior, one attitude, one way of coping, one thing you keep rationalizing. Maybe it's overthinking, people pleasing, emotional eating, self criticism, doom scrolling, carrying resentment, saying yes too much, living in urgency, getting tight under pressure, blaming stress for everything, avoiding what needs to be faced. Just pick one. And then the second step is to get honest about the excuse language around it. What do you keep saying that protects this pattern? This is where the truth starts getting real. What do you say? Do you say, this is just how I am? I've always been this way. I've always been like this. I'm under a lot of pressure right now. I'm under a lot of stress. There's a lot of horrible things that have happened to me. It's not the real issue. Anyone would do the same thing. I can't help it. I just need this right now. I'll deal with it later. This is what happens when life gets hard. That language matters because the excuse language reveals the self protection. And self protection is often the thing blocking change. And the third step is separate understanding from excusing. This one is so important because I do believe in compassion. I do believe in understanding where patterns come from and where they came from. And I do believe in seeing the wound, the history, the conditioning, the fear, the learned behavior. That matters. But understanding a pattern is not the same as excusing it. So you can say, I understand why I learned this, and still say, but I am not going to keep protecting it. You can say, I see where this comes from, and still say, but I need to own what I keep doing with it now. And that is mature healing because people often stay stuck when they confuse compassion with permission. And those are not the same thing. So the fourth step is ask what this pattern is costing you, because this is where honesty gets stronger. What is it costing you? Your peace, your confidence, your energy, your consistency, your relationship, your self respect, your freedom, your performance, your trust in yourself, your joy. Because patterns that are defended usually become expensive. And sometimes people need to see the cost clearly before they're willing to stop protecting the thing. And step 5 is to replace the excuse with an ownership statement. This is really powerful. So instead of this is just, how I am, try this is a pattern I've protected and I can retrain it. Instead of I only do this because of stress, try stress may trigger it, but I still need to own my response. Instead of I always do this, try I've been repeating this and now I'm ready to tell the truth about it. And instead of I can't help it, try I may not change it overnight, but I can absolutely stop defending it. And that changes the inner posture completely. And the last step is choose one small act of integrity this week. So just one, not a huge overhaul, not perfection, not everything at once, just one act of integrity. One moment where you stop excusing and start owning. One pause before the reaction. One no where you would normally say yes. One interruption of the habit. One reset after a miss. One honest conversation. One refusal to rationalize. One moment where truth wins over self protection. And that is where real change begins. Not in giant declarations, in repeated moments of ownership. So if I were to leave you with one thing today, it would be this. A lot of people want a different life, but they are still protecting the exact thing that keeps creating the same one. And that is why this week matters. Because you do not have to shame yourself into change, but you do have to stop defending what is hurting you. You do not have to become perfect, but you do have to become honest. You do not have to fix everything today, but you do have to stop pretending the pattern belongs there forever. And that is good news because once you own it, you can work with it. Once you stop excusing it, you can start changing it. Once you stop protecting it, you can finally begin retraining it. And that is where real freedom begins. So if this speaks to you and you are ready to stop repeating the same patterns and start creating real change from the inside out, visit dawngrant.com because I would be happy to help you. Habits, beliefs, patterns, programming, all of that is addressed with free web classes, online courses, hypnosis, meditation audios, mental training, and hypnosis, all there for you. I look forward to helping you. Check it all out. I'll see you on the inside.